Hi, and this is Review Geek 3000, and you are here for one reason only, and that is to eat, sleep, game, repeat. So please, like, share, subscribe, smash that notification bell, and as always on this channel, stay awesome. So yes guys, this is the Contenders Corner, and we are back again to give you a WWE's 2020 year in review. So yes guys, go over to Instagram and find us on Geeky Collections and follow us on there. We are Geek 3000 across Twitter, so follow us on there as well and support our YouTube channel, Review Geek 3000. You can contact us all over our social media and we'll do our best to get back to you. So please guys, support our Instagram, Twitter and YouTube, and stay tuned for our weekly content, and that is our Contenders Corner, where we do a Raw and SmackDown review every week on the Contenders Corner on this YouTube channel, and we also do an AEW Dynamite review. We also do pay-per-views as well across WWE and AEW. So yes guys, you will also find us on YouTube where we do a film parade, and that is where we do a film review every week. We also do a game stream, and we also do monthly unboxings. As our channel gets bigger, we will also be doing monthly giveaways. You can also go to our friends over on Facebook, and that is FCW, and they are known as Forbidden Championship Wrestling, and they are a game stream, and they are a wrestling brand known as Forbidden Championship Wrestling, and they are PWF, High Voltage, Satellite, and they do fantastic works, guys, to bring shows every week. And please guys, go over to Facebook and support them and check them out. Now we're going to jump straight in here, and this is where it all begins. We're going to rank every pay-per-view on WWE from the worst to the very best. Now 2020 started off. See, now WWE made its annual, right? So 2020 has certainly been a roller coaster for all of us, with WWE, with wrestling, with how the world is going on with COVID at the minute. But we had some incredible highs and some major lows on WWE. It has seen huge pay-per-view events such as Wrestlemania, which was performed in the Performance Centre in front of no fans at all. But amongst the madness and amongst all the controversy, there have been some real positives this year in the world of WWE. Just because it all began at Super Showdown, WWE made its annual trip to Saudi Arabia at the start of the year, but this show was one to forget, in my opinion, and was the worst out of all the pay-per-views to have been produced this year. Now, WWE didn't put too much effort into booking the show. The matches had a very house show feel. The show featured a lot of matches that had been seen before, as well as some very poor bouts, including the steel cage match between King Corbin and Roman Reigns, and the disastrous the ever disastrous main event, which featured Goldberg and The Fiend, where we saw Goldberg obliterate The Fiend in quick succession. It's just, guys, I'll rank Super Showdown here 14th of the overall pay-per-views, and it's the worst of them all. Contenders Corner pay-per-view rating here, I'm going to give this a 3.2 out of 5. It's just, guys, you know, this year has certainly made things very difficult in the wrestling world with COVID, the way they've had to change certain things in the atmosphere in every arena, and everything done in the Thunderdome made it easier as WWE became more creative to introduce fans for a virtual seat in the arenas in the Thunderdome. But surely it is getting boring now. With the introduction of the Thunderdome, made it easier for WWE to carry on doing their performances, doing their live shows. But this virtual seat, this Thunderdome atmosphere, no real atmosphere of fans in the arena is drowning out the show's ratings. And now we jump into the Money in the Bank. And again, the Money in the Bank was certainly an interesting event with a mix of in-ring action, cinematic style work in the unique main event, which had the ladder matches happen at the WWE HQ, was certainly a different and memorable atmosphere, but they weren't the strongest of matches. Most of the other bouts on the night were fairly forgettable though, with only Drew McIntyre facing Seth Rollins being something that felt truly pay-per-view worthy. And also, guys, I'm going to give this a ranking 13th. So Money in the Bank is 13th, and I'm going to give this a Contenders Corner pay-per-view rating a 3.3 out of 5. And in 12th position comes Wrestlemania 36, and this was part 2. So this was the night 2 show, and WWE's sorry guys. So this is the 12th position now, and this is WrestleMania Part 2, and this is Night 2. And WWE's decision to make WrestleMania 36 a 2-night event was certainly a fun idea. But when the 2 shows were put together, Night 2 was certainly weaker than Night 1. The lack of atmosphere hurt the show. The overall lack of top quality matches on this end was very bad. Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair had the match of the night, but outside of the rest of the show was very, very, very average. The cinematic Firefly Funhouse was very fun, very creative, but it wasn't really a match anyway. Meanwhile, the main event between Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre was fairly average. So I'm going to give this a Contenders Corner match rating 3.5 out of 5. Then we had in 11th place, Payback. And again, guys, Payback felt like a very average show as well. And most of this show was very, very forgettable. Despite the fact that the wrestling itself was all of great quality, there was just a lack of major moments in every aspect of the show. With Roman Reigns winning the Universal title being the big one, yet he didn't really compete in the triple threat at all. And this one really, the Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, The Fiend, the main event really, really angered me. Knowing the fact that Roman Reigns came down to the ring halfway, near towards the end of the match anyway. Both men are at their end stage. And he just come into the ring with a contract to say he could enter halfway through the match. And then, bang, spear, Superman punch, gone, job's a good one. And he won. I didn't like that match. And I downgraded that match for the basis of Roman Reigns just deciding to come in whenever he chose in that event. And I didn't like it. Then we had Keith Lee shock the world by defeating Randy Orton in quick fashion. And this was an absolute draw. It was a match of all matches. And seeing Rey, Dominic, Mysterio team up was very cool. But overall, this is a show that people simply won't remember. And again, guys, the year with COVID going on, and there ain't many pay-per-views that you can just simply say, I will remember that pay-per-view in 2020. This was a great pay-per-view. This had great matches. Payback, I simply just won't remember. In 10th place, we had the Elimination Chamber. And it was a mixed bag of an event, which was actually the last pay-per-view of the year where fans were able to attend. The show had some really great matches, with Drew Gulak and Daniel Bryan having one of the most underrated contests of the year. The Tag Team Elimination Chamber match was an exciting one, which made the show feel fresh. However, the main event fell flat and the show was so slightly predictable, which stopped it from being a top show. Again, guys, I'm going to rate this again a 3.5 out of 5. And in 9th place, we had the horror, which was Extreme Rules. Now, this was where WWE tried to get very creative with Extreme Rules this year, from the underwhelming swamp fight to the completely bonkers eye for an eye stipulation. The quality of in-ring work on this show was really high, and that led to an enjoyable evening of wrestling. Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler put on a great main event, while Asuka and Sasha Banks also put on a clinic. It's just, guys, there are a few matches in here where you can just simply say, fantastic. The swamp fight was very creative on WWE's part, but it wasn't the best out of all the cinematic matches this year. So I'm going to give this a Contenders Corner match rating 3.6 out of 5. Then in 8th place we had Wrestlemania, and this is Wrestlemania Part 1. So now we're back to Wrestlemania, and this is the 8th spot. and it's WrestleMania 36 Part 1. And it was certainly very different this year, and because this show happened at the start of the pandemic, we was in the middle of the pandemic, well, at the very beginning, and fans weren't able to attend the arena. And to be honest, I think this affected most of the ratings, knowing that fans could not be in the arena. It was the first again, guys, like I said, I think the empty arena was acceptable on WWE's part, but because it was during a pandemic, you could feel how it impacted the show in a negative manner, knowing the atmosphere was majorly affected. What could have been a fantastic pay-per-view this year, with the atmosphere being there, with the added atmosphere, surely this would have been in the top 4. But because of how the atmosphere was majorly affected in a negative way because of the pandemic, sadly this is in 8th place. However, the ring work on this show was brilliant, from the excellent ladder match to Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins destroying each other. The show was great. The Boneyard match was the very best of the cinematic matches of all to date this year. And it was also a very special moment in 2020. And the overall show itself was really enjoyable. But apart from the atmosphere, with fans not being able to attend, this had a major impact on the ratings, the show itself. So I want to give this a Contenders Corner match rating of 3.7 out of 5. Then we had Survivor Series. This is 7th place. So now the Survivor Series was a tribute to the ending of The Undertaker's career in what was certainly an impactful closing segment to the pay-per-view, which will ensure that it was a show fans will never forget, and we will remember The Undertaker. So thank you, Mark Calloway. Thank you, The Dead Man. Thank you, The Undertaker. Meanwhile, Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns had a great match, and Oscar and Sasha Banks had a fun battle. However, the traditional elimination matches were both very disappointing, which did hurt the overall rating of the show. So yes, guys, there was 2 matches in that pay-per-view that were brilliant. They were well done creatively, story-wise. But to be honest, it was the tribute of Undertaker that carried this show over. But still, guys, I'm going to give this a Contenders Corner match rating, no, pay-per-view rating, a 3.7 out of 5. We had Hell in a Cell. And it brought some epic matches to the table on the WWE Universe, with Bayley and Sasha Banks owning the arena, having a really terrific encounter. The other 2 cell matches were very enjoyable as well, but 3 in one night was a little too far. Even though they did a good job of making them all feel different, it was just too much. So yeah, again, guys, there was only 3 bouts in the pay-per-view that were fantastic indeed. But the others are just lost in time. Again, another pay-per-view that could have been done a lot better. The Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre match owned the show. Sasha Banks and Asuka owned the show. No, Sasha Banks and Bayley owned the show. And again, guys, Jey Uso and Roman Reigns as well. The stipulation match was terrific, especially with the heel turn of Roman Reigns and the things, the story, the push that Jey Uso is getting was fantastic. So just guys, I'm going to give this a show rating, a Contenders Corner show rating of 3.8 out of 5. Then we move on to Backlash, which was a really memorable WWE event from this year. I felt it was a fantastic pay-per-view this year. One of the top 5. And this was one of the moments where WWE just knew, and it felt like they knew how to nail an empty arena. And this show had a great match. It was full of great matches, from Bobby Lashley facing Drew McIntyre to Sheamus and Jeff Hardy. While it wasn't perfect, this show featured the very strange cinematic match between the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. It was headlined by an epic encounter between Edge and Randy Orton, which was brilliant. It was brilliant, but it was not the best match of all time. It was a great match. I'll give it that, but it was just not the best of all time. But it was fantastic seeing Edge come back from a back injury. Come back from a neck injury, sorry. And to see him wrestle again was just... It was just great to see Edge back. Just guys, so I'm going to give this a Contenders Corner pay-per-view rating of 3.9 out of 5. Then we had Summerslam. And again, guys, this was another big event of WWE this year. And the company ensured that it lived up to that billing in 2020. And by God, it did. The show had some great matches with Drew McIntyre facing Randy Orton and the big return of Roman Reigns to close the show. And again, guys, it was absolutely fantastic pay-per-view. I loved the pay-per-view. It was one of the best this year, in the top 5. And I'm going to give this a Contenders Corner match rating 3.9 out of 5. Move on to Clash of Champions. In 3rd place. Just guys, Clash Champions had a really strong card from top to bottom, and while the matches were very good on paper, they also delivered in the ring. The opening triple threat ladder match was unforgettable as Sami Zayn defeated Jeff Hardy and AJ Styles. Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton had a fun ambulance match, and the main event between Roman Reigns and Jey Uso really was superb. All the mid-card filler were also enjoyable to watch, which made for a great pay-per-view. And again, guys, I'm going to give this a Contenders Corner show rating, pay-per-view rating of 4 out of 5. We move over to TLC, and this was one of the recent pay-per-views. And TLC was the final pay-per-view of the year, and WWE certainly wrapped things up in style. From top to bottom, the show had a surprise return of Charlotte Flair, 2 amazing TLC matches, and a crazy Inferno bout. It was consistent and full of excitement, with a great in-ring work making the show very exciting. Just guys, again, I'm going to give this a Contenders Corner pay-per-view rating 4 out of 5. And then we move over to the Royal Rumble. And 2020 peaked at the very first pay-per-view this year because the Royal Rumble was comfortably the best show of the year. And this was one of the shows that benefited from having a full packed arena, but it also featured an array of amazing matches and memorable moments, from Oscar battling Becky Lynch in a technical masterclass to the rise of Drew McIntyre. This show had it all. Every match delivered, and Edge's return on the night created one of the biggest pops in wrestling history, putting together a monumental show indeed. Just guys, this was probably the better shows, the better pay-per-views of the year, and this was way before COVID and the pandemic just ruined wrestling, the wrestling atmosphere altogether. But again guys, in this Contenders Corner year in review, Royal Rumble is the Contenders Corner best pay-per-view of the year. And I'm going to give this a Contenders Corner pay-per-view rating a 4.5 out of 5. Just guys, if you enjoyed what we do on this channel, then please go and support us. Subscribe to this channel, and more content will be on the way. So that was 2020 year in review for WWE. What is in store for 2021 is a mystery. But is the pandemic gonna hurt wrestling any longer? Is it gonna affect many more pay-per-views this year? Is it gonna have an effect on fans going to events like the Love of Wrestling? Is it gonna affect fans from seeing WWE's UK shows, WWE Live, or the UK WWE Raw and SmackDown that get dropped every May and November? Is that going to have an effect on WWE? Is that going to have a big effect on wrestling altogether? Because certainly the pandemic has had a major mark on wrestling during 2020. But again guys, the winner of this pay-per-view rankings, Royal Rumble, was one of the pay-per-views that didn't really have an effect during this pandemic, because it was way before the lockdowns were introduced, and it was one of the events that had a full arena. And again guys, we had that one of the major returns of Edge coming back to WWE, and we had that massive pop, and everyone was just shocked, and it was absolutely amazing to see Edge return again. But again guys, are we going to see the Thunderdome drag out again if we have more pandemics? Because surely these virtual seats are just going to get boring, and WWE's ratings are just gonna dwindle and dwindle ever more again. But also guys, we got another year in review coming up, and that is the AEW year in review. and I'm going to drop this obviously after the tribute show, and that will be the AEW Brody Lee's tribute, and that will be dropped obviously Thursday morning. But again, guys, enjoy your celebrations. Obviously, we only have 1 day left of 2020, and 2021 is upon us, guys. So happy new year. Have a great new year for us, and hopefully COVID isn't gonna affect us any longer. But that is just wishful thinking at the moment, because this pandemic is just gonna carry on and carry on and carry on. But anyway, guys, enough of this rant. I hope you have a fantastic new year, and it brings the lot of you on this channel who support this channel a lot of luck indeed. And we wish you and everyone else who views this channel a happy new year. But anyway, guys, that is that. And remember to support our social medias, and that is Instagram. Follow us on Instagram at Geeky Collections. Follow us on Twitter at RGeek3000. Follow us on YouTube at ReviewGeek3000. You can contact us on all those social medias, and I will communicate as much as I can to you. And please support us all over our social media. Again, guys, we have a schedule of the Contenders Corner, and that is on a weekly basis or daily basis. And this is where we review Raw, SmackDown, AEW Dynamite, and any pay-per-view from AEW and WWE. We also do a film parade weekly, and that is a film review, a random film that gets dropped upon us out the hat, and we review it. We also do a game stream on here, and that is Game Zone Frenzy. We also do monthly unboxings. And as our channel gets bigger on YouTube, we will also be doing monthly giveaways in the future. Just guys, if you enjoy what we do, then please subscribe. And this is Review Geek 3000 calling out.